Good morning. We'll go ahead and call the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting to order, also sitting at Special Taxing District, August 19, 2024, 9 a.m. Board members will attend either in person, by telephone, or remotely via electronic conferencing. We're all here. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Supervisor Lyons, can you please lead us?
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to call to the public. I got some speaker forms here. Call Corey Mellon.
Good morning. Corey Mellon, 13221 South Bridges Avenue, Yuma, Arizona 85365. I'm coming today before you guys as a farmer and also as a governor of the Board of Governors of the Yuma County Water Users Association. Topic I'd like to discuss is the illegal dumping. Last week, I had one of the major shippers do a food safety audit on 40 acres, and they've kicked out that 40 acres in South County because the adjacent trash on Yuma County Water Users rights away. I know you folks have in place a plan to build a transfer station at County 19th Street. While that's great, and we're looking forward to it, in the meantime, County Water Users is going around their drain systems, their rights of way, and picking up trash that is being illegally dumped in those locations. They're investing their assets, their employee payroll to get that cleaned up. Farmers like myself are doing the same thing. Whenever there's a big truckload in the middle of the night that gets dumped on the county right away, side of the road, we go out, the next morning we pick it up and we haul it up to the dump. We can't wait for the county to come pick it up and clean it up. We have to get it out. It's a food safety issue. What I'm here asking you folks to do is the district will continue to invest in the assets, the dump trucks, the backhoes, the front end loaders, the employees to run them. The farmers will do the same. But what we're asking you folks to do is if the county could pick up the tab for the dump fee, that would help spread the burden and get it off of the backs of private citizens, private farms, and the county water users. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for going. Ian, can we put it on or talk about that?
Yes, sir. I'll look into that.
We'll look. Okay.
Thank you.
Can we add to the agenda, Mr. Chairman?
We can, but let's can we come up with a plan first and then
add it.
and then have it.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Steven Munoz.
I'm just here to ask for see if the board will grant permission for me to place a shed in my property.
Oh, yeah.
It's at the time I was unaware of that I need to put a house there in order to put a shed, and I'm currently saving for a house. And I purchased this shed at an auction at a good price, and I would just like to ask the board if you guys can grant permission for me to do so.
Can we or can you get a hold of him or get his phone number? And
This gentleman, Deputy County Administrator Josh Scott, can help you out if you want to call with him, and he can get your information and he'll help you out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
no, I got the address. And, so.
Here, want me to go?
Oh, he's got it.
Okay.
I have John Fugate Fugate for item number. Discussion item. You want to wait till the discussion item, or you want to?
I would prefer to wait, sir.
Okay. And then I have Aaron Sally with also a discussion item. Would you
Yes,
have?
Mr. Chairman, for the discussion.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else from the public that wishes to address the board? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and move on to presentations, proclamations, and appointment. Item number 1. Presentation on Law Enforcement Training Academy. President.
Good morning, everyone. It's
Morning.
always a pleasure to be here to share the good news of what's going on at Arizona Western College. So I'll have my colleagues, Ritika Dewan and Ross Poppenberger, come in and brief you on the progress towards the Law Enforcement Training Academy. But before they do that, I will share with you that last year, your community college saw a 24% increase in the number of credentials awarded, which is really quite astounding. We started classes last Monday and we're up about 7% in enrollment, so I anticipate another increase in credentials awarded. So we're true to our mission of transforming lives through education and partnerships to create thriving communities. And with your work and the work of the college, we are in fact creating thriving communities. So without any further ado, I'll ask Ritika Dewan to come and kick us off, and she'll pass it to Ross Poppenberger to fill you in. Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Vice Chairman, and all the board members.
Good morning.
And County Supervisor Administrator. Good morning to everyone and the public.
Just give me a minute. We got some more chairs in the front. If you're
Loud?
welcome to sit. Or okay, go continue. Thank you.
Okay, I will be very loud. I was previously teacher, so Lynn can tell we can be loud.
Yes.
So as Dr. Coach said, we have a growth in our overall growth. But he didn't say it's a growth also in the CTE, a lot of the growth, right? So, so all the growth you see is in the workforce, entrepreneurial college, a lot of the growth is there. And as always, thank you to all of you who are always supporting our workforce training, our college, and everything we collaborate together as a team. Multiple programs, not just one we are talking today about. If you look at the history, previously we used to offer 2-semester open enrollment academy. It's before 2019. And then when we came to you, we came all together. And at that time, Rich Colville was there, and we asked that, how can we collaborate? Bring the full-time police academy to Yuma County. That was our goal because we were sending cadet to Phoenix area to get trained. And it was was more than 20,000 for each cadet to go and then get trained in Phoenix area, and then not local. They will not understand the culture of the community. They will not understand the values of the community. And we wanted them to understand the value of the community. Now, under the leadership of Alfonso Zavala, who's the director here, we have done a remarkable job. We have created a full-time academy, which you see since 2019 with the funds and everything, collaboration with the Sheriff's Department, City of Yuma, and all the partners together. And what we did, lower cost for our students, for our cadets, saving them to go away from their family, stay here, keep them local at home with their family. That was our purpose, was to create this academy. Look at the partnership that we're doing. We are bringing revenue to Yuma County. And as it said, you know, it's Alfonso Zavala, it's our Associate Dean, Miguel Alvarez, they all are working together. And how we are doing is bringing all of them to Yuma instead of them going to Phoenix. How he is able to do this is because in suburban community like Yuma, other community want to get trained their cadets in Yuma County. They don't want to get into Phoenix area to be trained. They want to be trained in a similar county. So that's why we are able to, and the good relationship which our director has with other counties chief, that also speak a volume for his partnership. So 21 partners agencies come to Yuma County. They stay here in a local community hotels or either at the dorms and bring revenue to Yuma County. Full-time leader, as we said, we have 6 Arizona counties which are partnering on that police academy with us, 4 nations. So we have a total of 10 different collaboration going on here. So far, since 2019, 231 cadets have done, are graduated from this academy, which is remarkable. When it says, and also 100% passing rate through Arizona Post. Arizona Post, if you will bring anyone, they always speak volume about our academy. You talk about that, they have nothing to say but high praises about our academy. And the total cost saving, I'm going to round off like my boss, is $5 million, right? So I learned from him, so the best, that you round off when it's a good number, and you round lower significant number when it's bad, right? So that's what it is. It's a $5 million saving up to now since 2019. And then with the building, it's going to go up further and further. The training center when it's open up. And, so that's going to be another big things for, all of the collaboration you all have done. And I remember, Chairman Lyons, Vice Chairman Lyons going and driving specifically himself and supporting us. That shows volume and speak volume to the collaboration, what he has done for us. Again, not only that, under the leadership of, again, Zavala, we have started a DODA Academy with, Sheriff's Department, so that we also doing the similar training also for Detention Academy in Yuma, not just for the Police Academy. So we have started the Detention Academy also. And then so far, since like last year and a half or 2 years, we have almost 57 cadets finished successfully. And when we say that, the cost is either WIOA pays for it through ETPL or a minimum cost. So we are saving multiple dollars here for going through our WIOA programming funding. So that speaks volume as well. Again, 100% passing rate, and less than 2 years, we have a saving of 256 for just 57 cadets. So you are seeing that we are saving that money to be used for agencies to use for something else, which is more productive. And then again, 12 full-time leader classes so far offered, and 8 DODA classes so far offered since 2019. That speaks earlier, as you see, 11 since 2007 to 2019. We used to offer 1 class in a whole year, but now we are offering 2 classes. As we grow, with Director Zavala, he's like pushing, he's doing, how can we get more? How can we see the value of Yuma County? How can we bring all the partners to see value of Yuma County? And that's what we are doing with the collaboration with the Yuma County Office Department. And that's my presentation, and I'm going to give it to our CFO, Ross Poppenberger. Thank you, Ross.
Thanks, Ritika. Chairman Porteous, members of the board, I'm glad to continue on this brief and talk about the cool stuff having to do with the building. Preparing for these great classes Ritika is talking about and that Alfonso's leading, I've had the privilege of overseeing the effort for building it, and I have to say, from the start, this project has been fantastic. We have a great architect that's doing good stuff, and a fantastic contractor that's building the building for us. So this is a snapshot of the what the building's looking like. It's about 20,000 square feet, 4 classrooms, 2 defensive tactics rooms that have all the cool pads on the walls and all that stuff, and floor and whatnot, practical application, physical aptitude. You can see, and then showers and conference rooms, and then also separate showers and facilities for the instructors, so they can be separate from the cadets they're training and stuff. And going through that building, it is a high quality building. We're excited for the project. A few things to kind of talk through here is the first class, that the class, like what Ritika's talking about, starts October 7th. And I really have to, pat our contractor and architect on the back they've overcome a fair amount of challenges in terms of getting the electrical in and hooked up, and some long lead times on electrical gears that are out there. But we are going to be ready in time for the first class with substantial completion from the contractor on 5 September. And so that'll give us time then, separate from the contractor work, to get the furniture installed. So on the 9th of September, we'll begin installing the furniture. The building will be ready for essentially, for class and, for instructors to get in and get things set up on the 16th of September. So again, Pilkington really stepped up and did a fantastic job. And I also want to give a big shout out to all the Yuma County subs that really did the work, under the Pilkington umbrella there. Just a lot of goodness coming from Yuma County, and we tried to maintain most of the dollars here in Yuma County with the subs. As I said, it's one of the highest quality buildings that we built. Just the detail that's in that building, and I encourage you to come out for the ribbon cutting. And anytime you get a chance to go take a look at it, you'll see the detail in that. So it's a beautiful building. Strong partners. One more thing noteworthy of mention is a parade deck that we have. It's located between our PSI building and the LIDA, and so there's already discussion. I know Alfonso and the other partners are talking about collaborating with some of the PSI folks, the Public Safety Institute folks, and the Law Enforcement Training Academy. So again, a lot of room for collaboration. I do have a couple of pictures in the subsequent. The last thing is just the top line. Funded $7.5 million from support from you all. Thank you. And then the college put up another $2.7 million to make this project work. And again, overall is ahead of schedule and right at budget. So good work all the way around. Here's some photos of the construction process. This building is coming to closure rapidly. As I said, September 5th it'll be done. And so already, these pictures were taken last week. Already there's paint on the walls, there's ceiling tiles in there and stuff, and in the bathrooms the tiles up. But the picture on the left is the defensive tactics room. Where it's got the pads on the walls and whatnot. So nice facility. Here's a shot of the front. As I looked at the building today, this will be a conference room here with where the front is right now. They have the glass up right now, and on the porta pit or parapet up top there, they've got that covered up. So already from last week to this week, it's just at that phase in construction where it's all coming together. And pretty excited about it. So just kind of closing slide here talks about the highlights for the future and what we expect. I know Ratika and team have big goals for it to do well, and we're excited and want to thank you for your support for it. Subject to any questions on construction, I'm complete.
Oh, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Been a long time coming. I can remember going through the Reserve Academy back in '88 when they had it there, and it was just, you just kind of bounced classroom to classroom with whatever you could find. And this is just outstanding. You guys have done a heck of a job with it, and look forward to see the growth with it.
Yes, really, honestly, thank you for the hard work. But also, I want to thank Supervisor Lyons for taking that. I mean, I think he was a key part of it, so for funding. So I think he needs to do that more, huh? Bring more money to Yuma. Come on.
Working on that.
I think the term for Mr. Lyons was dogged or relentless or
Yes, he was.
some combination thereof. But again, we look forward to having you all ideally at the ribbon cutting so you can tour through this facility and see what this really unique partnership between the county and the college has resulted in. So again, thank you for the opportunity to update you.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
And it's a great day to be a manager.
That's why you are in the Hall of Fame.
Never missed an opportunity.
I never miss an opportunity.
We'll move on to item number 2, presentation of El Condado, informado by Yuma 77.
Bienvenidos al Condado Informado. El día de hoy estamos en un lugar muy importante para nuestra comunidad. Estamos en el sitio de transferencia, lo que comúnmente se le conoce como el Dompe. Y hoy vamos a estar hablando y platicando un poco con Mike Viel. Mike Viel, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás?
Buenos días, muy bien, gracias a Dios.
Perfecto, entonces, Mike Viel, me voy enterando que aquí tenemos un servicio muy importante para nuestra comunidad, que es un servicio gratuito de venir y tirar nuestra basura. Explícame un poquito más cómo funciona ese servicio.
Sí, aquí recibimos la basura de nuestra gente de la comunidad gratis. Aquí la gente no tiene que pagar un centavo, solamente tiene que ser su propia basura de su casa.
Ok, entonces aquí no se acepta la basura de negocios, no es comercial. Es simplemente un servicio para los residentes del condado.
Así es.
Ok, muy
Así
bien.
es.
Y entonces, cuando vienen las personas que traen su basura, ¿cómo funciona el proceso?
Bueno, la gente llega y nuestro trabajo es preguntar.
Sí.
¿De dónde traes tu basura? ¿Es de tu casa? ¿Qué traes? Porque aceptamos cierto tipo de basura, no aceptamos todo.
Ok.
No aceptamos químicos, pinturas, aceites, baterías, sí, pero los acomodamos en diferentes lugares. Entonces tenemos que preguntar qué es lo que traen. Y la gente tiene que ser honesta y decirnos traemos esto, esto y esto. Entonces ya nosotros los direccionamos a donde deben de poner su basura. Sí, lógicamente no aceptamos gente que trabaje haciendo eso.
Porque
limpiando
se llenaría aquí,
No,
¿verdad?
No tendríamos espacio para tanta gente.
Sí es.
Sí.
Entonces, ¿cuál es el producto más común que tienen aquí? ¿Cuáles son aquellas cosas que podemos venir a tirar aquí?
Aquí se puede tirar, tenemos una hoja que les entregamos a la gente donde aquí traigo para mostrarla.
Ok, muy bien.
En la que tenemos todo lo que aceptamos, que son todo lo que son refrigeradores, estufas, lavadoras.
Es una lista extensa.
Sí.
Ok, muy bien.
Y lo que no aceptamos también.
Ajá. Y Miguel, este servicio está disponible 7 días a la semana. ¿Cuál es el horario aquí?
Sí, abrimos todos los días, no tenemos descanso aquí, más que los días festivos.
Ok, muy bien.
Y la gente aquí se rota para que siempre haya personas trabajando aquí. Abrimos a las 7 de la mañana y cerramos a las 2:30.
Ok, muy bien. Pues ahí lo tienen, gente del condado. Este servicio es gratis para usted. Solo tiene que tener en mente que hay cosas que sí se pueden recibir y cosas que no se pueden recibir. Aquí les vamos a poner toda la información, pero para cualquier pregunta siempre usted puede ir a nuestra página web en el www.yumacounty.gov y allí bajo la página de Public Works puede encontrar toda la lista de lo que usted puede venir a tirar aquí de gratis.
Así es.
Muy bien, muchas gracias.
That was a nice segue from one of the comments that we heard today.
Yes, it was.
It's unfortunately that people still dump illegally out in the fields or canals when we have a place that it's free. And we're working on trying to set that up in South County. So saying
And
that,
Still want to encourage people to report illegal dumping. You see it, please call and report it.
thank you. All right. And I just want to say, for those of you that are not familiar with Yuma Channel 77, Al Condado, Informado, we do it one meeting in Spanish and then one meeting in English. So we're trying to capture all our residents here in Yuma County. We'll move on to consent calendar. The following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion. Unless a board member so requests, in that event, the item will be removed from consent calendar for separate discussion and action. And we have items 1 through 14.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull item number 13 for minor discussion.
Number 13.
Mr. Chairman, number 6.
6. Anything else?
Nothing else, I'll make a motion that we approve items 1 through 14.
I'll second that.
Of 6 and 13.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve items 1 through 14 with exception 6 and 13. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, facilities management. Award bid in the amount of $337,000 with 1 cent or $1.49 for the Juvenile Justice Center sidewalk and parking lot improvements. B, authorize the facilities management director to enter into a contract with GCI Construction and Inspections LLC as the qualified low response responsible bidding contractor pending legal review. And C, increase the budget authority by 87,002 for CIP 2.2408 due to the lowest bid exceeding existing budget authority and utilizing available appropriate CIP contingency.
Chairman Porteous, members of the board, Tiffany Anderson, Facilities Management Director. This item is to reduce tripping hazards and other issues with the concrete and parking lot that have been observed within the Juvenile Justice Center. When this facility was first built, they landscaped a lot. Since then, as the landscaping has died off, there are large areas, especially within the parking lot, that are just empty dirt with some rock. When the water is penetrated into those areas, it's creating sinkholes throughout the parking lot. And so this is an effort to maintain the integrity of the parking lot, reduce tripping hazards, and generally improve the entryway, both the public and the staff entryway at this facility. Were there questions?
So how many bidders did we have for this?
We had one company who showed up to the bid walk, and that same individual submitted a bid by the deadline.
How did we advertise it?
It was advertised in the Yuma Sun. It was also sent out to local general contractors and shared with the Yuma Southwest Contractors Association for their bid board.
My concern is that we, having only one bid and then exceeding the maximum by 87,000, I'm just wondering if we should put it out to bid, or it's just very odd that we've only got one bid for that. That's my concern, especially since we're exceeding it by almost 90 grand.
I have a question. How come Public Works can't do the parking lot?
It's mostly concrete work. I'm sorry, Chairman Porteous,
I'm
Supervisor
sorry.
Pancrazi. Most of this project is concrete work. So we're filling in a lot of those islands with concrete, removing the existing concrete, entry, repouring in slabs. So it's not something that Public Works would be.
You said the parking lot, and I was thinking, why can't we keep it in-house if it's a parking lot?
It's primarily concrete work, not pavement.
Within the parking lot.
I know, yeah, I know what it is, yeah, okay. Thank you, though.
You know, as a comment, I don't think time is on our side. I mean, I've been I've been around construction for a long time, and look, if you wait another 2 months, if we rebid it again, there's no guarantee you're going to get a better price, especially given the way that concrete goes up and down. So that is most of the determining factor why it's so high. It's the cost of concrete. It keeps going up and up and up, and anytime that we spend trying to get it lower, it's actually happening the other way. Inflation is not that much of a factor, but I think in the construction field, it's the time, it's people who find the time that don't have a contract, the cost of concrete, the cost of material. I think that if we don't approve it right now and go out back to bid, there's no guarantees you're going to get a cheaper amount. It may be that you don't get a bid.
Was the full scope of, Mr. Chairman, Tiffany, was the full scope of work descriptive? I was concerned that there wasn't a full scope of work, from what I understand.
Chairman Porteous, Supervisor Lyons, yes, there were maps included with very clearly marked areas,
okay,
and the scope of those areas were identified in the RFP. There was also a very detailed bid walk, where as those individuals, they walked the entire site, stood for questions, as those came up, and were produced with that RFI back to the interested contractor after the bid walk.
I guess my real position is just that we don't have more than one bid and we're exceeding our limit by a pretty significant amount of money. That's my concern.
I mean, I've seen that before. Some of them just don't want to bid or think
Sure.
they're busy or something, but I mean, the process was there, so.
And Mr. Chairman, if I might add, as Supervisor Lyons did point out, it is $87,000 over what was budgeted, but that excess is being absorbed by CIP contingency, which is there for exactly that reason for this project, that to exceed the budgeted limit.
Okay.
All right. Is there a motion for item number 6?
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve item number 6 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Tiffany. Item number 13, engineering award the construction contract for the Highway 95, 95 counties 22nd to County 17 pavement rehab mill and fill.
Okay, the question I have, Francisco, has to do with, okay, now we got someone that's gonna do the job. It's also a little bit high, but, you know, it's still within budget, I think.
Chairman Porches, members of the board, Supervisor Reyes, actually, this is a really good price. And so.
Don't say that.
It is.
I was trying to avoid the word "it's a good bid," but.
It is significantly below our budget, and so we're gonna have a discussion with the contractor to see if we can extend the limits of the mill and fill with the excess budget. And then we'd bring that back to the board for approval as a change order.
When is it scheduled to start?
We anticipate construction starting early October.
So it's October. Okay, I just wanted to get a sense of where you were in terms of when, if awarded the bid, which we will do, or we won't do, but we'll do. Then, you know, you have like a period of time for it to begin. You're in August, September, October, so you expect to begin October.
Early October. We still have to sign the contracts. I have the pre-construction meeting and then go through.
Do you
some
have
of this.
a traffic plan yet? You know, like well, it's too early yet. You have to, a traffic plan. I mean, they're gonna seal one side, one lane at a time, or they're gonna seal the whole road. You don't have that yet. It's too early.
We don't have those details yet from the
Right,
contract.
okay, well, I'll ask you what those details are. But right now, you have a bid, and the bid is a responsible bidder. I mean, it's not like you're getting a bid from someone you don't know.
Correct.
Okay, I've got no more questions. I'll make a motion, we go ahead and approve the item as presented.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second to approve item number 13 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to discussion and action items. Item number 1. County's administration presentation by Yuma Valley Road and Gun Club and discussion and possible action related to the Bureau of Land Management BLM planning process for Yuma East Gila River Travel Management. Andy?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for allowing me time to present here this morning to you on this very important matter. My name is Andy Martinez. I'm representing myself, but also representing the Yuma Valley Road and Gun Club. As you may or may not be aware, the Yuma Field Office, BLM, has initiated a travel management planning process with an environmental assessment that they began in January of this past year. So many years ago, this process started approximately 15 years ago with some other planning and decisions that were made. So in your packet, I have provided you, there's some slides. And so I want to just kind of give you a brief history about how we got here, kind of what's going on, and what are we going to do next. So way back in like 2003, 2004, the BLM said, we're going to start the planning process for a recreation management plan. And it was a brutal process. It took years, and many people, cooperating agencies were involved. I think it was something like 28 cooperating agencies. But we all came together, and we came up with a plan. And so there's 2 documents, if you look on your page. It says 2008 final EIS and the 2010 RMP ROD, so that's the record of decision. Those 2 documents are final approved legal documents that we worked for at least 5-10 years developing. The final EIS is an environmental impact statement that describes the area that they're considering and also analyzes the environmental consequences. The recreation management plan then goes on to say how are we going to plan for that, and so that was finalized in 2010, and it's very, very specific. So currently, they have started this Yuma East Gila River environmental assessment, which, if you can understand, it would be all of the greater Yuma area, everywhere in between, like here, all the Welton, Gila River area, and then all the way up to Yuma East, which a lot of us commonly refer to as Unit 41. So it's 700,000 acres. It's a substantial amount of land. And they had initiated this process, or they brought it back through some funding that they received and started in 2020 and 2022. And apparently, the BLM went out and created new maps. So those planning documents I talked about from 2008, 2010 were very specific. They left 5 very specific maps that said, these are the current inventoried routes. This is where you will start the process when you start the travel management plans using these routes. Very, very specific. For some reason, the BLM went out and re-inventoried routes. And what concerns me, well, lots of things concern me, but mainly is that it was arbitrary and capricious. They just went out and they took a crew of people and they said, okay, this is a route, this is not a route. They had some contractors help them, but they didn't have you all help them. They didn't have all the local governing, all those 28 cooperating agencies that worked so hard for so many years weren't there helping. And so legally, I don't believe that they can use those new inventoried maps. They didn't have an environmental impact statement. They weren't part of the 2010 Recreation Management Plan. But morally, I don't think they should use those maps either because they didn't have all of the stakeholders' input invested in developing them. So there's a lot more to it, and I promise I will make myself available to any of you, your staff. There's just a lot of details, but where I'm at currently is I have worked all summer. I've wrote a letter a week to the Yuma Field Office BLM, which I've included in your packets, and it's falling on deaf ears. I've begged them. I have gone to their public meetings. I have met personally with the director, Mr. Castro, and basically just told they're going to do it anyways. And so if the plan that they have proposed does go through, it's going to have a substantial impact to the recreation opportunities for the Yuma area people. First of all, the maps the new inventory maps are about 1,000 miles short of routes. And so just from the get-go, we're losing 1,000 miles of what out of that 4,600 inventory routes, right? So they weren't even considered. And so there was different reasons. They said, oh, well, Bureau of Reclamation is closing these roads because of something. I don't even know all the ins and outs. But that's the kind of information they should be putting in this travel management plan now. If things have changed, if different routes because of different organizations, that should be documented, described, and included. They shouldn't take those out before they do the environmental assessment, if that makes sense. So I'm here today just asking for your help, your support. I'm just one person. I'm a school teacher at Yuma Catholic High School. I have 4 children. I have a lot going on personally in my life. I don't mind helping. I love doing this. I believe that we should all be active in our community, and I believe in service and before self. But I've got to the point to where I don't know if I physically have the ability to do what needs to be done next, and that is what this final EA becomes finalized, which is happening now. I'm going to have to appeal it to the IBLA, and I've never done that. And that's where it gets kind of legal, and I really could use some assistance in preparing documents. However, and I will appeal it, even if I don't quite get it right, and I'll try my best. I honestly feel that the Yuma County Board of Supervisors should be appealing it, and the Yuma Valley Rod and Gun Club will be appealing it. But again, I'll try my best as a citizen to get it done. But I've kind of got to the point in the road where I just need some help. And so I'm here to answer any questions you have. Will gladly make myself available to any of your staff to give them more detailed information. Like I said, there's a lot more to it.
Sure. Question, Andy, how, I mean, from the sounds of it, it's a very different plan than what you came up with. Very, very different.
Very different.
And so where does the impetus to change that much came from?
I don't know why they changed it that much, but I can speak to how it's a very different plan and how that really concerns me. It took a lot for some of these different organizations to come together and say, we agree on this. Think about like Sierra Club getting along with Yuma Valley Rod and Gun Club, right? We have different interests, but we came together. Nobody was 100% happy, but everybody could live with it. But over the past 15 years, all those routes that we inventoried, they were numbered and there was maps distributed. The public, they didn't like it, but they got used to it. And now they know those routes. They know those numbers. They know where they're out on the ground. And so like these new maps, they don't even have the same route numbers. How confusing is that to a public? You know, I've been using this, I didn't like it, I did it anyways, 15 years later, and now they're changing the route number. So it's just, I feel like that's just confusing in and of itself, so.
Why?
Yes, go ahead. No, okay. I mean, I was just gonna ask you, is this new routing, is it just an update, or is it a major change? I mean, it looks to me like it's a major change.
Completely different maps.
Completely different map.
Right, and so I have like the maps that they're numbered TMA 1 through TMA 5, because they're very detailed throughout that 2008 and 2010 document. I have them, they have them, but for some reason, they hired contractors to go out and they just re-inventoried everything.
Massive. That's massive in some ways. Yeah.
I have a question. What's wrong with the 2008 and 2010 maps that they needed to change them?
Great question. So they needed to finish in the recreation management plan, they chose to defer the travel management planning process, which they have the right to do, and which I think was really smart, because at the time we were just, we were exhausted. We had done so many years of work, and they just quite didn't have the funding. It was going to be a monumental task to go out and designate the routes. So they had the right to do that. They chose to do that. They very clearly said that. In fact, I protested the 2010 plan. And I received an additional letter, it's in your packet, from the Secretary of Interior, Director, I believe, of Renewable Resources. And he reiterated the fact that we chose to defer the TMP, the travel management plans, because of the scope and the cost. And at which time we do come back and we find funding for that travel management plan, we will start with those TMA 1 through TMA 5 maps, and we'll start the designation process. So I included that there for you. It's like a 5-page letter. I protested on 3 separate items, but I wanted you to see that even then he reiterated the fact that he promised that we would come back to those maps. And so, again, I have been pleading and begging with the Yuma Field office, letter a week for all the month, of June. I've been to their meetings, and they just say, well, we did it. And so these are the routes we have, and that's what we're going to do. So,
Mr. Chair and Andy, did they do a complete NEPA?
So that's the problem. That's my final letter I wrote to them. I call it like my premature protest letter. My letter number 4 is in your packet. And I said that this is my official protest. It's a NEPA violation. The maps that you've created haven't been through an environmental impact statement. The maps in the 2010 plan have. That's the 2008 EIS. Mm-hmm. So that was my last kind of ditch effort to them. On August 10th, I wrote that. So no, they have not, to my understanding.
I thought that was a given that you, Mr. Chair and Andy, I thought it was a given that you have to do a complete NEPA before you can approve, before they can approve any kind of Absolutely. Changes.
Absolutely.
Like that.
I believe that to be true too.
Mr. Chair and Andy, what about the Peace Trail? Didn't it go through the whole NEPA process?
Well,
I'm not sure.
Why don't we find out?
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I don't have that specific. I can look into
have all those answers, so.
Okay. I just know that the Peace Trail.
It is. The NEPA violation is the huge one, and to me, that's on appeal. It's going to win, no matter. I mean, it's black and white. It's not. There's no gray area to it. They have to have analyzed the infected. They have to describe the environment and analyze it. So, and they have not done that with their new maps. They have with the maps they should be using, but. So I just found that there's a lot of people in the public that don't know anything about this. They just BLM kind of just started doing this and didn't notify stakeholders and whatnot. So I've been trying to spread the word just to inform. I went out to a meeting in Welton, and the mayor out there was really grateful. I'm trying to help get the word out that this is a big deal. If this plan goes through, a lot of things are going to change. So.
We got a lot of some speakers that want to address on this item. So we'll hear him, and then we.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. John Frigate.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members, staff.
Good morning.
Andy made this pretty easy for on on the left-hand side of your packet, the bottom page, there's a single-page letter. It's got my name on the bottom of it. I'm not going to read it in the essence of time. I think this is, you folks are getting it. I just want to go over just something very briefly. If you look at the second page of the document that says United States Department of Interior, if you'll look on the second page of that, what Andy's been telling you, TMA 1 through 5, you'll find that. It's about in the middle of the page. Then when you look on page 4, those same numbers are there, and I'm just going to read a sentence out of there. The Yuma Field Office, meaning BLM, has compiled with these policies by producing a map of a preliminary road and trail network, FEIS maps 1 through 5, and outlining interim travel management policies that would occur until the final road and trail network is established through future management plans, and it gives all the numbers there. This letter is BLM's words, not our words, not Andy's words. That's from the Bureau of Land Management. This 5-page document is a denial to the protest she made. So they said, well, we're going to wait till we get all the money, and when we get money, we're going to do the job. Well, in this denial protest letter, it says how they're supposed to do their job, and that's what Andy's been explaining to you. They didn't do their job. So from our perspective and on behalf of Andy, I agree with Chairman Porteous. It would be important that staff, particularly legal staff, looks at it, make sure that Andy's correct, make sure that I'm correct on behalf of the club. And if we are correct, I suggest, Mr. Chairman, that you have staff write a letter for your signature and say, hey, if this goes on like it is right now and it becomes final, rest assured the county's going to appeal it. And that's what we need. Is there any other questions that I?
Thank you.
You're very welcome, sir.
Let me comment as a comment. We may want to start by asking the reason for this massive changes first and see what their argument are.
Let's hear those. Gary or Carrie Meister?
Chairman Porteous, may I defer until after my wife speaks?
Oh, Nancy?
Smart man.
Hi, Nancy.
Good morning. I'm Nancy Meister. I'm president of Yuma Audubon. I'm here to address the BLM transportation plan that you're being asked to maybe support. I attended the public meetings here in Yuma. There were 2 public meetings held by BLM where Mr. Ray Castro, the director of BLM, explained that there are changes from 2010. It was quite a while ago. And according to Mr. Castro, and I have to believe he's telling me the truth, is that some of those trails that were at one time open have been overgrown now and are inaccessible. There are some other changes that have occurred since 2010. For instance, the Sonoran pronghorn antelope have been transported to the Kofa Refuge. When they are released, they are out in that area because we're talking about all the way up to the Eagle Tail Mountains. There are 2 wilderness areas within this plan, the Muggins Wilderness Area and the Eagle Tail Wilderness Areas. And some of those trails that are going to be limited are right at the edges of those wilderness areas, which, you know, people kind of lose track of where the boundaries are and may intrude into those wilderness areas where vehicles are excluded. Our concern is mostly for the wildlife in the area, where they would be disturbed by excessive ORV usage. And if you think about over 1,000 miles, I could get to San Francisco and back. Why would we need that many acres or miles of recreational trails in that area? I mean, really? Also, the county is looking at some restrictions because they're out of compliance with PM10. You know, if the EPA comes down on you, that's going to restrict some development in our areas. So more ORV use in the county is going to increase more PM10s. I did talk with the staff of BLM. They aren't allowed to tell me exactly where the indigenous areas of concern are, but there apparently are intaglios out there. There are other cultural resources that need protection, and some of those are just rocks on the ground. So if you're in an ORV, kind of an off-road vehicle, and just out there having a good time, you may not notice that those cultural important areas are there. So, you know, besides the cultural resources, we need to look at habitat, we need to look at plants, we need to look at animals, we need to look at what kind of destruction is going on out there. So thank you for your time today. Those are my comments.
Gary?
Thank you, Chairman Porteous and members of the board for the opportunity to speak to you today on this issue. It gives me no great joy to disagree with the Yuma Valley Rod and Gun Club. We have disagreed in the past, but most recently we stood together in opposition to a solar plant near Dateland. And we want to work with the Yuma Valley Rod and Gun Club. In the case of this issue, I would encourage you, if you wish to become involved in it, to foster conversation between the various interests in this area. Bring the Yuma Valley Rod and Gun Club, Yuma Audubon together, and I will say, my name is Kerry Meister, P.O. Box 6095, Yuma, Arizona. Bring us together so that hopefully we can come up with something to agree on and put before you. This may or may not be possible, but if we don't take the effort, we'll never get there. Our concerns are very great about off-road vehicle use, off-highway vehicle use, whatever they're called now, in this area. With the climate changing, wildlife are under even more stress than they have been. This is an area where Sonoran pronghorn are trying to reestablish themselves. Our concern is for the wildlife. The Yuma Valley Rod and Gun Club likes to hunt. I don't think they dispute that. And that is a relatively minimal impact, the number of times they would go out hunting, compared to the number of times we have winter visitors going out in convoys of ORVs through public land. Some of it is open, some of it isn't. We disagree about how much should be open and how much shouldn't. But from the point of view of Yuma Audubon, we are going to advocate for closure of routes. It sounds like Yuma Valley Rod and Gun is proposing not any of the alternatives in the environmental assessment because they have problems with the process, but it would have been good, and maybe they did, I don't know, if they had come up with an alternative to present to BLM, because this is part of the scoping process carried out by BLM. I'm a little dismayed, even though I disagree greatly with BLM at times, as I sure you do, that they were not here today. It's really kind of an unfair thing to start accusing people when they don't have a chance to defend themselves. So I would also like to see BLM communicate with the board
Eric, if you turn around, don't we have a representative here from BLM?
Okay, I'm glad that's the case.
Human fish.
So, as I say, our concern is mostly with the people who go out with ORVs, and we don't need duplicate routes. If we had to choose an alternative in the plan, we would choose alternative B, but we would also like to see some changes as well. So the reason I'm coming before you is to encourage you to build a big tent, include all the community interests who are involved in this project, if you choose to involve yourselves in this issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Okay. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
And Andy?
So sorry, I wasn't sure if there was any other speakers. I just wanted to say 100% I agree. They spoke very great about the concerns with the routes out there and changing over the past 15 years and whatnot. And I am not in opposition. I don't feel like the Rod and Gun Club is in opposition with any clubs. We very much want a plan done. We very much want a TMP completed. I would love to have had one years ago, but I'm glad that they're doing it now. So I guess the problem is that everything that was described by the speakers is what should be happening in this current EA. So it's designation of routes. And so we should going out there and looking to see, like they said, did this change? Is this a new route here? Is this a duplicate? And that should be being done in the plan. And that was done before the plan and not part of record, I guess, if that's for, I don't know if Mr. Fugate could help me kind of explain that a little bit better, but I very much want a plan, and we want to describe all those routes, but that's what should be happening in the EA. That's not, so.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask?
I'll make this.
Go
Sorry.
ahead, Mr. Fugate.
Go ahead. Mr. Chairman, members, Karen and I have known each other a long time. Most of the time, we simply agree to disagree. I don't disagree with anything that Carrie said, particularly about them being here. I spent an hour and a half with the Yuma field office manager on Friday. Gave him a heads up that this was happening today to address that one question. We're very transparent. We ain't got nothing to hide. It's folks like you that's got good legal beagles when it comes to appealing something, not the Rod and Gun Club with a $40,000 checkbook. So either they do it right or they don't. Whether we argue about a road being open or closed, that's what the whole process is all about. But they got to do it right. So the maps that have been presented, that they've done arbitrarily and capriciously, when we start this process, like Carrie's saying, so we figure out what's good for wildlife and what's good for not, we're starting out 900 miles in the deficit. Well, that didn't give us the opportunity it didn't give Carrie the opportunity to say, hey, that road ought to be closed, nor did it give me the opportunity to say, hey, that road ought to be open. So that's clearly a violation of NEPA. They can't do that. So we got to get into the process. The last thing I'll tell you, the BLM got a 4-page written letter from the Arizona Game and Fish Department. And Game and Fish knows about the wildlife. BLM knows about the habitat. But within this process that all of us are discussing today, it appeared, based on me reading that letter, that BLM thought they were more of a wildlife biologist than a habitat. So my point being, they're closing the road because they're saying this animal's impacted, that animal's impacted. Well, when they started the process, they didn't call Game and Fish. They weren't even a part of it. So they come in late in the game. So the game's got to start all over. We got to do it right. It's that simple. The staff will tell you whether we're right, Carrie's right, or we're all right.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I think, honestly, I mean, you know, we put this on the agenda, just we were not aware, or at least, you know, hearing from BLM or someone, at least for them to give us their side. So I think we should find out or can we, what can we do, legally, or send them a letter?
Mr. Chairman.
To get on the game on this, or find out?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
What I think we need to do, one, is because the hearing date is past deadline. The 10th, I think, was the last day for any comments and such. And obviously, they're ignoring their own rules, which is, Rod and Gun Club isn't saying, look, we're totally against this. We're just saying, follow your own rules. Go by what you said, not change them at this last minute. I would like to see us get behind the Rod and Gun Club in this, just to make them come back to the table and listen to what everybody says and go through the NEPA process. Get everything out here the way it needs to be, so the Audubon Society can make comments. Rod and Gun Club, Game and Fish. I would like to see if we could do a resolution in support of Game and Fish, or in support of the Rod and Gun Club stance, to bring this back and do it right.
Well, let's hear what legal has.
I want to let you know that, as you probably know, BLM is tasked with the management of federal lands for that purpose. Certainly the board could probably do a resolution if it wanted to support one way or the other, but you will not have the jurisdiction, nor at this point, I believe, standing to bring a lawsuit to force BLM to do anything other than what's done. So I'm just going to leave you with that.
Mr. Chairman, could we address this again as Chevron deference rulemaking without the proper sequencing?
And I think in order to bring a suit on behalf of Yuma County to do that, you would have to show some type of negative impact that would directly affect the function and responsibility of Yuma County in providing services to all of its citizens. And I don't believe at this point you have that standing. You could certainly, as a board, offer support, but you will not have at this point the authority to move forward with any particular lawsuit that I can see. I think this is all new. It was just brought to the table for us too, but from what I understand, you're going to have different views out there of what is best and not best, and whether they follow the rules or not is another issue. But to have standing, you have to show that there was a certain action taken by the federal government that had some type of impact on the county government. And I'm not hearing that at this point. I just hear that people aren't happy with the way the process was done at BLM, and maybe let them know you're free to go ahead and provide a letter or a resolution in support or against the way they did it. But at this point, I don't see the standing.
Can we send a letter, just, kind of maybe requesting that, if they could give the public of Yuma County an opportunity to address or get them all together?
I think you can. I think you can do that, but from what I'm hearing is they want you guys to flip the bill on the legal issue here. And I don't think you have the authority to do that at this point, or the jurisdiction.
Well, but yeah, that'll be separate, but at least, or another action that we would take. But I think just asking if they can come to the table and hear the groups that are here, and we'll also send letters to our federal delegation.
Yeah, and I think that's the appropriate route to take. I guess I'm going with this would be something more to that effect, because you're going to have, at some point, you'll have people agencies or clubs that have different viewpoints, as we're seeing here today. BLM is the person to have that addressed to it. Whether or not they provided an open forum as required by statute, I don't know. But that's going to be those individuals who are impacted by it, they have the standing to bring those enforcement of rules types of actions. And I don't see that as something, I don't want anyone to think they're going to, after today, we're going to move forward with something like that, because I don't see that. But certainly a support that BLM, if it's believed that you folks, based upon either what was said here today or something in the future, that you don't believe their rules were followed, and you have clubs and agencies within our county that you support, not in any particular way, but they should have had an opportunity to speak at it and be heard meaningfully. I think you could do something in that regard. If that was what. is
Well, that
being-
or mainly too, just following their own, what they put down in writing as far as their own rules and regulations to
Well,
follow.
I mean, yeah, you could do that, and they may come back and say, you know, this is what we did, and we believe we followed it. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
but I think it's something we need to get behind and support with Rod and Gun Club, whether resolution or letters to our federal representatives. Because I can tell you right now, this is a very hot topic, especially out in my district. Most of these roads and trails are in my district. And I'm hearing it a lot from the people out there that they're not happy that a lot of these roads are going to be closed. And there's an understanding that, okay, some of them are going to be closed. You have to look at the changes, like you said, with wildlife and other things. But it's the fact that the process in which they're going through, they feel that they're not following all their rules and regulations.
and again, we're not making I don't know if that's true or not. I know some folks feel that way, and it's federal government, it's big, I mean, it's huge. And they may have a representative that can come through and indicate, you know, we appreciate your input, but we believe we did follow our rules. But the public input goes to BLM. I think they had from what I understand, some meetings since June.
June 26th,
And folks had
27th.
shown up and voiced concerns. If that was done and they still chose to take the route they did, that may be within their authority to do so. And I don't think you're in a position, just as Yuma County, without any other impact noted, to say differently.
Thank you,
Certainly
John.
making sure your public, your citizens of Yuma County had their voice heard. You could,
Exactly.
you could say, I believe sending a letter to saying, we just want to make sure that happens.
That happens.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I know very little about the legal, but something you said that stood out. Does Yuma County Board of Supervisors not have standing as you're very much involved in the creation of the 2008 and 2010 plans? They promised you all, just like they promised me or the Rod and Gun Club or whatever, this is the rules we're going to follow by. And I think by your involvement in that, and this being an extension of that plan, that gives you standing. But I'm not, like I said, I know very little bit about the legal part. So.
Well, we'll definitely look into it, Andy. Thank you. So,
And we can get with your administration and try to guide them on that. And maybe things change as we move forward. I just want to give you perspective of where it's coming from our.
What was our involvement, Mr. Chairman, in that 2010 plan? I know that Ian wasn't there. John, do you remember?
No.
Your comments were all. Your comments within the documents were all provided from the Yuma County Public Works Department. So there would be the department that
was involved.
Josh, were you there then?
No.
Tony was here.
I was here, but don't ask me to. I barely remember what I did last month.
Process where you submitted comments on what maybe as a board, as a public body, you would like to see. But whether or not they follow them or agree with them in whole or part, I don't know. But I think the issue today is it looks like they don't feel like
I
the
think
rules
they
were
did for
followed.
years. I mean, the comments that we made, I remember that instance where
You
it just
do?
simply, yeah.
Wow.
And it was just simply to sort of agree that there were some trails, or, you know, we talked about the Peace Trail, we talked about a lot
Yeah.
of stuff. And there was a sense that everybody participated, so we came up, that plan was okay by everybody that I remember. So this is where we get into a discussion here, because I don't think they're following, at the end of the day, they're trying to change that plan in a major way, but they're not involving the usual suspects, us, in the process. And I think that's where we're going at. And we're gonna have problems.
so we'll definitely find out. Go ahead, please.
Chairman Porteous and supervisors, I'd like to reiterate that we're kind of talking in a vacuum here without the presence of a representative of BLM.
That's what we're gonna try to do.
Right.
So we'll address that.
Believe you do, but certainly a friendly invitation might be appropriate. Thank you.
That's so.
All right, okay.
Agree.
Well,
Kind of agree.
Mr. Chairman, yes, staff can draft a letter for the board's review and possible signature.
The first thing that I would like you to do is contact the BLM people and let them know where we're at. I think we're past the stage of commenting, so you may be, like the attorney said, you may be we're barking up the wrong tree at the end of the day, but we need to bark.
Very good, will do.
Thank you. Thank you all for your comments and concerns.
Yes.
Moving on to item number 2. County Administrative Construction Management Presentation, Discussion, and Action to select a furniture vendor being considered for Yuma County Administration Services. And who do we have? Robin and Dave.
Indeed.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Porches, members of the board. I can imagine how excited you are to hear about this again.
Oh, yes.
Well,
Robin
R&D.
Stallworth, Enterprise Risk Administrative Director. Dave Hillen, I'm Construction Director. We've been working on the, for more than a year, furniture firms and various furnishing options have been researched. This process has been done carefully, as you know, keeping in mind the importance of functionality, dependability, and responsibility. We kept important questions as we worked through this process, such as, will the firm that we engage with be able to accomplish this big of a project? Can we procure the firm? So we carefully outlined the scope of this portion of the project, visiting showrooms, engaging with each of these 3 firms, as you've heard. On May 20th, we came before you to present information on the 3 firms on our short list that we believed would be able to meet our needs within the budget that's been identified for this part. The board provided direction at that time to have the firms visit Yuma County on site so that we had an opportunity to view their furniture, view the functionality and quality, as well as the design. On August 8th, all of you visited the displayed furniture over at the 102 Main Street County facility. The Yuma County Recorder's Office was gracious enough to allow us to use their space for this purpose, so we are very thankful for that. You heard some presentations from those 3 firms. Following that meeting, the board instructed us to arrange an employee survey to receive some feedback and opinion from the employees that would occupy the administration services building. And an electronic survey was launched and available only to those that visited that space. So you had to go visit that space to be able to scan that QR code and submit a vote. That survey closed a few days ago on Friday. This is what the county recorder's office looked like for the last several days to allow county employees to walk through each of the desk options and workstation options. We labeled each of them A, B, and C, corresponding sets, a desk and workstation from each of the vendors, and that was how the vote was presented to the employees. With approximately 170 occupants slated to occupy that space, we received 85 responses, which is about 50% response rate. When employees pulled up the survey on their phones, it also instructed them to email 197project@yumacountyaz.gov in the event they had additional information or feedback they would like to share, concerns or questions. That email is going to remain active throughout the project and can be utilized to receive questions and feedback from anyone. We spent the time the survey was active to re-review the individual proposals of the firms. The trend obviously was in the direction of a firm we did not initially recommend in May. We wanted to make sure we kept in mind the same considerations communicated to you during that meeting to touch on today and have an idea on the best way to maybe move forward at this point. We feel that the employee feedback was extremely valuable. We appreciate the opportunity to do that. And taking into account the employee responses, we think it's important simply to share a few key differences we previously mentioned to the board. So A, again, was Arizona Furnishings. B was Corporate Interior Systems, CIS, and then C was Elon Tech. We displayed the building finishes sample board over at 102 Main Street to offer the employees the opportunity to see that, see those colors and textures. I wanted just to note the first picture at the top left is Arizona Furnishings. These are snips from their proposals that we reviewed before launching the survey. The top left, Arizona Furnishings, appears to be a different finish than what's displayed over at 102 Main Street. This photo more closely matches the finishings that will be included in the building. Arizona Furnishings has advised that they have a finish available that will more closely match. It's just not the finish that you see on display. The second photo, top, is Corporate Interior Systems. That's our leader in the employee survey. The above desk tack board, whiteboard portion combo, it's not displayed over at the 102 building as it is proposed in their proposal, and that was simply because the vendor wasn't able to mount that. We didn't allow any mounting on the walls in that building. This is again, these are 03 offices. I think we mentioned that before. This finish, the top right, does closely match the finishes of the building. As you saw, the bottom photo represents Elon Tech's proposal and matches the finishes of the building. However, the displayed furniture over at 102 is not the proposed finish and color. We do believe that that impacted the employee survey.
Mm-hmm. It impacted me.
Yes. Chairman Porches, members of the board, this is an 07 office, and as you may recall, we talked about the typicals that were identified for individual offices from 01 to 07. This, again, same differences I just mentioned, but I want to highlight at the top right, CIS, the office furnishings for offices designated 04 to 07, dependent on the need of that office and the position that would be occupying that space. This particular proposal has metal frames and the top, as well as the overhead shelving for some of the typicals. We'll have the wood laminate that matches the wood laminate that's on display at 102. We believe this would have maybe impacted the employee survey also. So although it was very difficult to have all of the components on display, we do feel that some of these key differences we are taking into account as we work through the proposals and the information we've presented to you, your feedback and the employee survey. These next few slides are just a visual of other spaces, just to remember there are some key spaces that are going to have to be furnished. Some of these pieces are from all three firms, actually, and they are included in the scope, although they are not weren't demoed over at the 102 building. These are a few of the unique spaces that we'll have in the building, and so some of those we will have to work through with the chosen firm. Aside from the interior design or aesthetics of the building, the most important considerations, of course, are budget, quality, functionality, the warranty that's available, the responsiveness of the firm, their customer service, and other services that they may have available. This is going to be a lot of logistics, having all of these components placed in the individual spaces. And then facility management. We have engaged with facilities department and taken that into consideration on what is most functional for the work that they have to do. We are recommending to work through some value engineering and contract development with one vendor and then identify an alternate for complete furnishings, ensuring that there is consistency throughout the building. We are, again, as we mentioned before, recommending an additional phase of work amongst ourselves to rehome some functional furnishings we have in our buildings, and we've discussed that. Mm-hmm. We feel we are really committed to having a seamless transition from the space that an employee currently occupies to moving into the administration services building. And again, we'd like to see zero operational downtime for the county's operations. These are the quotes that were provided through the proposals for the furnishing needs, and then after extensive evaluation of all of the things that we've discussed, we are recommending to move forward with negotiating a contract with CIS, Corporate Interior Systems. We recognize the strong employee response to their furnishings, and they did a great job on the display, as did the other firms. And we do feel they have strong qualifications that they represented throughout the process. A few concerns that we have discussed include the pricing differences, the aesthetic difference within the few typicals I pointed out today, and we think it is important, again, to maintain consistency, so I think those things need to be worked out. But we feel we'll be able to do that with CIS and finalize a plan that meets our functionality needs in a responsible way with a cohesive design. However, we want to work through that proposal again with some value engineering that we feel is important, and we would like the board to approve an alternate firm to ensure that we can move forward promptly if we're unable to work out those few key differences we think may be issues for us.
Chairman,
Go ahead.
okay, on the contract, and this is actually the highest bid. Now, do we have any problem with that? I mean, I don't want to get involved in some sort of lawsuit over 20,000 or 15,000, whatever the difference is. I understand that the wanting of the employees, and I like CIC. I thought that was a good choice, but I'm just concerned that we send out a bid process. The bid process was very distinctive, very specific. We got the bids. This is the highest bid. I mean, I know we talk about a responsible bidder, but all three are responsible bidders. So I'm just a little concerned with that. Can that be addressed by legal in a way? I mean, I don't mind making a motion to let staff choose and negotiate. I just want legal to be involved in the process so that we make sure that we don't run into a problem with the other vendors complaining that these were chosen. Instead of a result, we end up with a choice.
Chairman Porches, members of the board, I should have noted in our last discussion, we did, all three of these firms are on state contract, and I think that was one of the biggest qualifiers for us because it represented that they will be able to handle a project this scope and, again, meet the needs budget-wise, but they are all on state contract.
So this is not a competitive bid? This wasn't? It was just a choice in vendor?
Chairman, members of the board, with the product you have, you're going to have different types of products. They're not identical, so you're able to judge what it is you want and what it's going to cost.
No?
It's not like you're buying the same
Just want to make sure.
automobile at a higher price.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Does that
Just
help?
want to make sure. Yeah, well,
Okay.
a little bit.
Well, I can.
I don't recall
entertain more
all those
questions.
details of it, but you know, I can
The bidding process
I can be
did go out
convinced that
under
I
state
forgot.
contracts. They've already done a bidding process that qualified them under state law. And if you prefer what is being offered by one agency, one business, even though it may cost a little more because you prefer that quality or that design or it fits better with what you're doing, I think you're okay with the different costs.
Got it. So,
Chairman Porches, Supervisor Reyes, to be specific, we do not feel that we are very committed to working through this proposal to value engineer some things that we don't believe are necessary for the furnishings that were proposed. And it was a very difficult process to take these three proposals side by side and compare them because as you heard, they were not all proposing the same types of pieces. We know exactly what we would like to see in each individual type of office, but each of them proposed what they felt would be the best fit for that purpose. Some had a little bit more creative storage options, some had different finishings and different materials. So I think working through those things, as you suggested, having those vendors on site was extremely helpful because we weren't always looking at the same exact type of thing, although the goal is to arrive at the best, to procure the best pieces we can to meet the needs of the employees that have to work within that space.
now, the motion is pretty broad, pretty open. So the only thing that I don't see it is whether you're allowed by this motion to simply move on to the next one, which is something I would put in there. You know, I would put in select the furniture vendor, that you'd be allowed to select the furniture vendor with whom you will develop a purchase and installation contract. And if not the first choice, then go to the second choice and the third choice until you find something that fits the bill. I don't read it that way on the motion. So
Well, that's why she's asking, we'll make a motion.
well, there's a recommended motion here. So that I'm reading the recommended motion. We can add then that you can go to the next one. That saves us some time.
Chairman Porches, Supervisor Reyes, yes, we would prefer to, we are recommending to move forward to the next stage with CIS, and we would like the board to identify an alternate or provide some direction in that regard so we can move promptly to the next firm if we're not able to accomplish something.
Okay, so you ready for motion?
Well, my.
Ready for motion. The motion will be to direct staff to select a furniture vendor for the new Yuma County Administration Services building with the option of going to the next available bidder if not able to secure a purchase and installation contract, utilizing the state ADOA cooperative procurement system. Okay, does that cover you enough? You cover enough? Does that cover you enough?
I think so.
All right.
I'll
Then that'll be
second
my
it.
motion.
Make a motion in a second.
Mr. Chairman.
Did we mention CIC by name? Or do we have to? CIC.
You did.
I did.
Yeah.
And just a reminder to the board that staff will bring the contract back to the board for authorization for
So it's
signature.
CIS. The
Okay.
computer digital system. So.
There's a motion. Yes.
Is there a preference on the alternate, or would you like staff to make that determination when we?
We like staff.
Arizona Furniture.
Well, why don't we let staff?
Defer to staff.
Defer to staff. on
I
that.
think it goes that
Yeah,
way, right? The highest bidder to the lowest bid.
So we did a process, so. All right, there's a motion in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Well, before you, can you read the motion? Because I don't
She's
know,
gonna
it's
read
a
the
little
motion.
confusing.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Desiree, the clerk, will read the
I don't know what motion I'm reading.
Direct staff to select the furniture vendor CIS for the new County Administration Services building, with whom the county will develop a purchase and installation contract utilizing state ADOA cooperative procurement.
Is there a mention that they can go to the second one, or do we leave that open? In the motion, did we mention that?
Yeah, it would be good to have the second choice.
So the motion is going to be amended a little bit to include the ability of the staff to go to the second highest choice, or to the second best choice. Okay, and so this is a motion, this is an amendment to the motion, so somebody needs to second it.
Tony,
If
I'll
you're
withdraw,
unable-
you can amend that, and then you need
Okay.
to allow staff to make that secondary.
No, that's the idea.
And that secondary is only if the first choice, if we're unable to negotiate.
Negotiate with
So
them.
tee it up again, one more time.
So the motion will be including an option for the staff to go to the second best option as they see fit.
And I will re-second that.
Amendment.
Amendment.
That includes everything.
Okay, there's a motion, motion amended and second, and.
This is an emotion altogether. No matter.
To approve the furniture for our new building. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
And any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Dave.
Appreciate your assistance and your support through all of the steps. So
It's
thank you
painful,
very.
Semi-painful.
Moving on to item number 3,
First world problems.
discussion and possible action.
What's
to
that?
provide direction regarding the possible sale or lease of parcel number 701-62-096, a county-owned parcel located just north of the Lyman 40th Street and just east of Ironwood Drive in the foothills.
Chairman Porches, members of the board, Frank Sanchez, Director for Engineering. I received a request from Mr. Elgie about the possibility of selling a parcel that's currently owned by the county. And as you can see up This is the parcel that is owned by the county. This parcel is owned by Mr. Salgi, and that's parcel number 701-62096. It's located just east of Ironwood Drive and north of 40th Street alignment. The parcel size is 15.78 acres, zone R810. The parcel was created as Track A as part of the original Desert Foothills Estates subdivision, which was recorded back in 1970. The county acquired the parcel through the state tax deed back on April of 2017. As you can see on this picture, you can see that the parcel, the county parcel, is pretty much encompassed by the flood zone, floodplain, and floodway. When Mr. Salgi approached the county about the possibility of acquiring that parcel, we did advise that it'd be staff recommendation not to sell it due to the possible future project improvements along this west bank of the Fortuna Wash. So Mr. Salgi then suggested about a possible lease. And so being an R810, Mr. Salgi indicated that he's interested in grazing some animals. We're here just trying to get a guidance from the board whether or not the board wishes to either sell the property or lease the property. It wouldn't be directly to Mr. Salgi. It would have to go to an auction, and which then would allow Mr. Salgi to bid on it.
I want to ask how much liability is involved in here. Because if we lease it to anyone, and anyone puts, animals in there, and then all of a sudden they're swept by a flood, how much liability does the county have for anything that happens if we lease it out like that? And why would we want to lease floodplains? I mean, it's already a problem there because, it may harden the soil, whatever happens in there, I think it's best left to nature. That's the nature way that some of that flood water gets released. Why would you want to put anything on its way? I don't. Without getting a liability issue, I don't see the upside of that. Especially because you're going to have to go through a bidding process, but because somebody would have authority over doing something over that land that we may be able to preclude that from happening with the lease. But why would we want to do that? If we don't want to sell it, I don't think we want to lease it. My particular.
Any questions?
But my concern with it is, one, I understand not wanting to sell it for a simple fact if we need to get in there and do work. But leasing it, what are you wanting to graze in there? What animals are you wanting to put in there, Mr. Zapiz?
Is it grass?
So hold on. Are we done with Frank, or do any more questions for Frank?
We'll have more for him, I'm sure, but he's.
I'm not going to. So I can, I'll bring him up to the podium because he has the speaker form.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, Aaron, Charlie?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff.
Can you please pull up slide number 1, if you would?
I just grabbed some screenshots real quick so you all understood that I know exactly what we're getting into here. And for the next one, number 2, please. So I can confirm all this is in the floodway, and that's the overall look of the parcel right now. The floodway is actually splitting, and as you can see by some of Frank's, it shows a flood zone over to the right side and a floodway over to the left. Typically, the water flows more to the eastern side now at this point. So we have goats and sheep, and we're getting ready to start expanding the ranch area. A lot of this has to do with access because the public sees that as county, and then they think everything beyond it is county. So we've ended up with trash, a boat, all kinds of stuff dumped on our property because they believe they have direct access through county property. Now, if county needs an easement to do embankment repair and other things, I absolutely understand that. And that was one of the first discussions I had with Mr. Sanchez. So we're not opposed to them having an easement along that back edge wall to do reinforcement or whatever it is that they need. We are acutely aware that this parcel cannot have a house built on it, should not have dirt brought in. We're willing to, forego all of those things and just use it as animal grazing, which we can do in a flood zone. It is a legitimate reason to use that type of property. We have plenty of land on the outside of that to the south to move the animals to if and when the monsoon season starts to come. Legitimately, the wash only runs about 3 or 4 times a year. Okay, so we are well prepared for that on the other areas of our property as well. So we already have the animals moved up and out of the floodway and flood zone down towards 42nd Street, which is at the other end of my 24 current acres. As you can tell by the pictures that Mr. Sanchez put up for the county, there is some discrepancy between where the floodway and where the flood zone is. We all know that. The maps are not at issue. FEMA is going to be redoing that. I believe that with the way that the wash flows now, we have a better use of that area in the center. And with it only running a few times per year, I think that's the best thing. To me, overall for the county, the big benefit is then you'd have somebody paying taxes on it and somebody purchasing it. There's a constant and continuous source of income. I don't think it's in my best interest to lease it only because I would be doing minor improvements. His restricted improvements to me are not terrible. One 600 square foot shelter or shade area, 3-sided, is very reasonable. However, purchasing it, I believe, is in the best interest of the county because it's a forever income. And this land right now, even though it's vacant and unbuildable, I think would at least bring in between $10,000 and $15,000 to the county, plus taxes every year of at least $200 to $500, depending. And that's pretty typical in this area. My intent is to keep it open like this and maintain some of the character of the foothills before everything gets developed. Some people have come out and seen it, and some people have seen my other property, and we've left it open as well as access down the wash and trying to keep some of the character of the foothills the way it is now. And also generating revenue, I think, is the best possible solution for the board. Questions?
Just a comment. I don't have a problem with generating revenue. But my problem is you don't know when monsoon season hits. I mean, we get rain like in 5 hours. I mean, how would you move animals out of that floodplain if you get a sudden flash flood?
Yeah.
How would you move it?
That's a good question, Mr. Chairman. So we typically have between 2 and 4 hours between the time the rains come and the time the wash actually flows more than a couple inches. So by the time the water is actually flowing from the mountains, and this is with 3 years of experience out there now, so not 20, but at least my previous 3 years of owning the parcel to the south, we have about 3 to 5 hours between the time the rain hits and the time the floodwaters come. So plenty of time to move 50 or 100 sheep. So
I don't know. You travel, you're not there. It's kind of tough to move.
I understand what you want to do, Aaron, and believe me, my two concerns is one is it's in the flood zone or the floodway. Keeping our access to the area as far as the county's needs. But when you start putting livestock in that close to residences, I know my phone's going to explode as soon as it starts. It's, because people don't want livestock right behind their house.
Right. So that would be like a secondary area, right? So my primary area is in my primary residential area, or primary residence area, which is to the south. So that would just be used to move them up and back so we can, as the farmers bring them in to graze off the last of the alfalfa cuttings, that's kind of the plan. We want to try and rehabilitate some of that to bring back some more natural state and plant more plants and put more things in there. That's the general idea, but it can be moved.
Mr. Chair, Aaron, is it similar to what the sheep farmers do in Yuma, where they move them from one piece of property to another, and then they eat it all down, and then they move them to another one, and they eat that one all down?
Yes, ma'am.
And allow that one to grow back? And
that's our future plan, yes, ma'am. So it's not going to be a permanent herd or a permanent building or a permanent 500 sheep out there. The idea is just to keep it as open as possible so it has the same character it does now, and it won't have, we haven't had any complaints on our area and to the south for smell or anything to this point because we've done a very natural farming technique, so we haven't had any issues yet.
have you had any phone calls on that, Darren?
Oh, just sporadic. So are you going to put the area right now, there's nothing there to graze.
Correct.
It's just sand. So what are you wanting to plant in there? Grass and?
Yes, so my plan is between the two Ys and that flood channel there would be to plant minor amounts of grass and grazing material for them to use during the hottest times of the year. So they would be up there during when the winter visitors are not here is when I would have them up there. And then I would move them back to pens and normal facilities. So the idea would be to use the same standard electric fences that you would just put out temporary with the strapping, and not to fence off the entire area, but just to fence off the grazing area once it's growing and once we have an established area for them.
Where are you going to get the water?
We're this week we should have a well at the northeastern corner of our well or our property to the south. Can you switch back to Frank's colored slide, please? Sorry. Oh, that one's good. So you see our northeastern corner up there? Is there a laser in here? Oh, so the well's going in right here. We've already been approved by the state. We're just waiting for the driller to come out this week or next. So the well will be here. We'll just run the water down to storage tanks at the joining of the two, and then we can pump it right into the area in the middle between the washes. So the problem is obviously nothing grows in the middle of wash sand. We're acutely aware of that, but there is some actual dirt in between the two runoff sections. That would work. So not a gigantic operation, but the three things that would help us with: one, generate the county income. That's first and foremost. Two, it would help by controlling that area and building up so there's less erosion, because we would be planting things. We would have natural matter out there, and it would hopefully help in the future. And three, when they come out to use the foothills, it would be much more controlled, and they wouldn't be able to just get in from 40th Street and dump stuff all over the desert. Because as a normal citizen, you can't trespass people out of county property. So in order for us to get people out, or when the homeless people come in from 40th, or when they dump trash or dump a boat, it's a very long and difficult process for us to get rid of it. So this would be another way that it would turn into private property so that we could control that entrance and exit easier. And if it was only an erosion control issue, then you would think the county would have every parcel down the floodway, which they don't. So that area had a project put in, I think it was about 2006 when I looked. I'm not sure when the project was put in, but there is some erosion control along the embankment behind the houses of Ironwood, but they own into the wash. So their erosion control is on them. That's what we were told when we went to the flood board. So it was on us. So if our erosion control is on us as that parcel owner, then the erosion control of those other parcels, unless it was decided by the county that it was in the best interest of the entire county to do more erosion control. But in that case, an easement is not an issue. We have no problem giving an easement and access directly to the county at any time.
Any other questions for Mr. Aaron? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I got speaker form, Corey, Mr.
Chairman Porteous, Supervisors, I'm Kerry Meister, and I'm speaking as Conservation Chair of the Yuma Audubon Society, P.O. Box 6395, Yuma, Arizona 85366. I couldn't believe this proposal when I read it, that it was for real, that someone would want to put something like this in a floodplain. Good planning would involve not locating things in a floodplain, especially structures. Is the proponent going to come back to the County Board of Supervisors at the end of the lease and say, I want to be compensated for my improvements? There are a lot of questions. Some of them were answered by the proponent in my mind, but still, after looking at this, it seems like an extremely bad idea. I hope the board will take seriously the advice of staff. I used to be a county staffer and provided advice to the board as an IT leader, manager. And please don't sell this land. please don't lease this land. Some of the question, I've had the question answered about how the livestock will be constrained from wandering. Okay, there's an electric fence. Will the proponent ask to be able to put in more improvements after he gets operating in this area and sees that he might feel they're needed? People, Fortuna Wash is an ORV expressway. People travel through this area, they'll disturb the domestic animals. Is this what the proponent really wants? It would perhaps be better if he devoted his efforts to his current parcel, where he's already said that he has problems with the public. This would only add to his problems. I was curious about what the livestock would eat. Apparently, it's going to be farmed. It's not just a grazing area, but it's a pasture. It's going to become a pasture. And what kind of animals are going to be out there? Goats and sheep. I took care of a goat for my son when he was allergic to it for his 4-H project. And I know a little bit about goats. They're not going to restrict themselves to the grass. They're not browsers, or they're not grazers, they're browsers. They're going to attack the native vegetation, which provides habitat for wildlife. And many of the people who live on Ironwood Drive have chosen those locations specifically because they enjoy the wildlife. Some Yuma Audubon members own homes there. And I've been there to enjoy seeing the birds. And if you destroy the native vegetation, you're going to destroy the habitat that supports that existing population. The issue of odors for neighbors has been minimized by the proponent, but were the people who would live adjacent to this parcel notified of this? I know that in the foothills, sometimes when developments are proposed, that they get pretty riled up and show up in numbers. So I can only attribute that to the fact that they probably don't even know about this. It's inconsistent with the land use designation. Now, I looked in the Yuma County plan, the general plan, and it shows land use designations. It's a little hard to figure out at this scale, but it would appear that Fortuna Wash is low-density residential. And this whole area is residential, with the exception of this presumably commercial grazing operation and browsing operation. In fact, if anything, because the proponent's parcel is in a flood zone, it might be appropriate for the county to offer, if he would voluntarily wish to sell the parcel, so that the wash bottom could be protected. So there's still many issues, and I urge you to approve neither sale nor lease of this land. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the land use designation of that is RA10. It is consistent with grazing without a separate permit or special use permit. And the land use density is mixed use multi-family from 40th Street north. So south of 40th Street, he's correct, it's low density. That's what we own now. But north of that, it's mixed use and high density. But it is still RA10. Thanks.
So when you first spoke with Mr. Shelley, your recommendation was not to sell or not to lease.
That was, I advised him that was going to be our staff recommendation, was not to sell the property. As Mr. Saji mentioned, the flood control district did have some improvements to the Fortuna Wash that were constructed north of this section. We did try to extend some of those improvements further south, but a lot of the property owners didn't want to grant the county easements to do those improvements. So that's where I'm getting at. If we sell, then it's a hard time trying to get those easements. And that's just bank stabilization. There's other improvements along the entire wash that might come up in the future that then we would have to turn around and buy this parcel back.
No.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, and I believe I understand what Aaron's want to do. I just see problems. I want to go, my recommendation is we go with staff as far as denying it. I think if we sell it or even lease it, the problems that are going to come down the road with the expansion of the foothills, moving to the east side of the wash with more residences, and then you start putting more livestock in between them, I just see problems down the road. So with that, I'll recommend denial of the sale.
I'll second that motion. I just don't think building anything on the floodplain is a good idea at
Yeah.
all, no matter what. I think it's best for us to sort of manage that the best way we can, but I don't think you manage that by leasing it or selling it.
Okay, so there's a.
Mr. Chair, is that?
I understand what he's wanting to do and why. It just.
No. I'd say that the way I look at it, you're saying no to both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that their-
Yeah.
Okay.
No to vote.
There's a motion and a second to not sell or lease parcel number 701-62096. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Frank. Item number 4,
Tough one.
Free Library District or
I understand.
conduct a public hearing to receive comment regarding the proposed revisions to the fines and fee schedules for the Yuma County Library District, and B, discussion and possible action to authorize the chairman to sign resolution number 2024-24, formerly adopting said schedule effective immediately to supersede all previously adopted fee schedules. And here we have.
Good morning, Chairman Porchas and supervisors. Good morning, Supervisor Pancrezi. My name is Anastasia Noriega. I am the principal at San Pascual High School. I have with me my colleague from the elementary school principal, Kiana Gibbons-Jarvis. And we're here just to offer our support and want to let you know the impact that this decision will have on the students of San Pascual. We're a small school district of 550 students. As you know, if you've lived here as long as I have, my whole life, you know that over across the river, they're just as much part of our community as any other human is. And our students are 50% Hispanic, 50% Native American. The students that are represented in the Native American tribe are Quezon students, are recognized by Arizona. They're part of the Arizona Lower River Tribes. Also, our students are part of AIA, Arizona Athletic Association, so they compete with Arizona students. What I'm trying to say is that we're pretty much all part of Arizona and Yuma, aside from the fact that we're on the other side of the river, right? So the impact their decision will have today will impact our students in the fact that at the moment, the closest library access they have that would be free is in Imperial, so that's about an hour away. Whereas we could just come across here to the Heritage Library or go all the way into the Yuma Main Library and have great quicker access and more feasible access to the library resources. Also, I know our elementary principal has taken field trips and has taken our students over there on our Super Saturdays and during summer school. So it is something that we do benefit from already, and this would just allow our students to have more equitable access to the library resources that are available right here. So all I'm here to do is just ask for your support in that decision as you make it today.
Thank you. Ashley?
Chairman Porches, members of the board, I'm Ashley Jones, Library Director. This is the second component to the circulation policy that you approved on July 22nd. They kind of took my thunder from me, but that's okay. I'm glad to see you guys here support. We recognize that San Pascual students, we're the closest resource that they do have to be able to continue their education, continue to learn outside of the school system. And we at the library have the opportunity to meet those gaps sometimes. And unfortunately, throughout the years, San Pascual has been denied that access without paying a fee to come in and, well, not to come into the building, but to be able to take those items home and to be able to really utilize those resources. And it's a big barrier for them. And we understand that $5 isn't a lot to some of us, but $5 to some of those families is a deal breaker. And currently we only have 11 San Pascual students that are in our system. And we really want to remove that barrier for these kids because we do understand that they give back to the Yuma community and with the hopes of being able to continue that education and that STEM learning that they do at school, that once they leave school and go off to college, that they'll be able to come back to our community and give back to where they're from.
Any questions?
No.
That sounds great. That's good. I'm glad that, that's happening and giving those students the opportunity to get those books and take them home.
Right, so you have to have a public hearing? Is this the last phase?
This is the public hearing.
This is the public.
This is it.
All
Yes.
right. Are you ready for a motion?
No, well, and I have
Once you close it.
Anastasia. Lori? Oh, you spoke for
Yes,
her?
she
Okay.
spoke for it.
Mhm.
Uh,
I think it's a wonderful idea.
You think a teacher should
Yeah.
make the motion then?
I move.
Oh, hold on.
Okay.
Why don't you go ahead and open it for public hearing,
Yeah.
just in case somebody's here that hasn't spoken, and then
Okay.
if not, we can close it.
I'll go ahead and open it up to the public. See if seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. Close.
Okay, I move to authorize the chairman to sign a resolution number 2024-24, formally adopting said schedule to supersede all previously adopted fee schedules.
I'll second the motion.
There's a
Thank
motion
you.
and a second to authorize the chairman to sign resolution number 2024-24. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you.
Great, thank you guys very much. Yes, thank you for thinking of your kids. That's important.
Moving on to item number 5.
Tough.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Establish and adopt property tax rates and assessment of property taxes for all applicable Yuma County property tax levying authorities, special districts, and improvement districts for fiscal year 2024-25 pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 42-17151 as indicated on the attached schedule.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Gil Villegas, Chief Financial Officer. This morning, I'm asking the board to approve the property tax rates and levies summary report for the fiscal year ending 2025 as presented. You should have that spreadsheet in your package. Per Arizona Revised Statutes, on or before the third Monday in August, the county is required to compile and approve the property taxes and levies for its taxing authorities. This process brings the county into compliance. In essence, this is the last step that we do during our budget process. Once the report is approved, then it will go to the treasurer's office for them to put it under tax roll so they can collect their taxes. Also, I need to send it to the PTOC, the Property Tax Oversight Committee, at the Arizona Department of Revenue for compliance. There is a semi-new, or last year was implemented requirement where we are now required to post this summary report in our website. So once it gets approved, I'll ensure that this is also posted for compliance. This year, we have a total of 327 tax authorities. We have 4 new tax authorities. They are improvement districts. They are in the San Luis area. I have highlighted those in yellow for you, page 7 and 10. Out of this 327 tax authority, this board is directly responsible for only 166 tax authorities. The majority of them are improvement districts. As a reminder, all those tax levies and rates, they were adopted during our budget process. The other 161 tax authorities, they have been approved and adopted by the governing boards, and they have submitted, well, I have requested all the information so I can compile this summary report for all of you. For your reference, I also had the opportunity to work with the school superintendent, the treasurer, the assessor's office, so we can all review and make sure that the rates and levies are okay. However, this year, on Friday, when I was doing my final review, I discovered a formula error on one of the levies. It's on page 12, the last line for the Yuma County Pest Abatement District. The levy is not $58 million, it's $583,810. So as soon as I discovered that, I communicated to the county administration, and we made the correction, and I believe there's a handout for all of you. Summary, total for the levy, both primary and secondary for all your taxing authorities, $187,335,036. This represents a 2.6 million increase, or 1.38% from the prior fiscal year. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this concludes my last presentation, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
You think?
Any questions for Gil?
Gil, when does, when does the new, someone's was thinking of a bond issue. When do they come into the roll? After it's passed?
After it's passed. That'll be till the
The next
next
year?
year, or probably to the following year.
I think most likely, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor, I think it's going to be to the next cycle, tax year. But this bond issuance is something that they do on their own. The municipalities definitely have the authority to issue their own bond
Well,
issuance.
it's a school district, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, gotcha.
Okay, no further questions?
Thanks, Gil.
Thank you, Gil. Is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Stop looking at me, man.
There'd be
It's
more.
gotta be a bipartisan thing. You got-
I'll second.
I said second. You want any specifics, or?
So the motion was as presented.
As presented.
As presented.
If I may, with the correction that we
Oh,
made.
yes, with the corrections. Mhm.
There's a motion and a second to approve the item as presented with the corrections. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Gil.
Thank you.
Hey, Gil, you look younger every time I see you. man.
I know, huh? Uh-huh.
Alejandro, state and federal legislative updates.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Alejandro Figueroa, Economic Development and Intergovernmental Affairs for Yuma County. I have a brief update for you today. I'll start with the state. The referendum that creates new criminal statutes bearing illegal border crossings and enhancing drug offenses to include the sale of, and I quote, lethal fentanyl, end quote, HCR 2060 cleared the Arizona Supreme Court last week, clearing its way to appear on the November ballot. In a unanimous decision, the state high court found Proposition 314 did not violate the single subject rule of the Arizona Constitution, affirming an earlier ruling from Maricopa County Superior Court. On the federal side, the U.S. Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee approved the Border Weather Resiliency Act, introduced by Senators Kirsten Sinema from Arizona and John Cornyn from Texas, to develop a strategy for protecting Customs and Border Protection personnel and equipment from extreme weather, including record-breaking heat waves. The act mandates CBP to assess and strategize on mitigating the impacts of extreme weather on personnel, infrastructure, technology, and other assets. aiming to improve morale, enhance agency effectiveness, and save taxpayer dollars by strengthening infrastructure resilience. The act is headed to the Senate floor if leadership allows it. Also, I'd like to share that with the public that last week the Board of Supervisors sent out a letter to our congressional members, Senator Sinema and Kelly, Congressman Grijalva and Gosar, and Governor Hobbs, expressing their concern about the overlap between the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program and the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, which is hindering broadband expansion efforts in the county, and requesting their support in advocating for solutions to these challenges. Lastly, on the international front, last week, the Yuma County Board of Supervisors sent a letter to the governor of the Mexican state of Sonora. The letter requests Governor Durazo's support in urging the Mexican federal government to respond to a U.S. diplomatic note. This response is critical for confirming the final design and coordinates of the southbound, of the southbound crossing point at the San Luis Juan port of entry, which is currently undergoing a significant expansion and remodeling project. The letter emphasizes the importance of timely coordination between both countries to ensure the project's success. The board also sent out letters to Congressman Stanton and Cisco Mounty expressing support for the CBP Hiring and Retention Act of 2024, emphasizing its importance for improving CBP staffing along Yuma County's extensive border with Mexico. Lastly, the Yuma County Board of Supervisors sent a letter to Charlene Fernandez, USDA Arizona Director, requesting the assignment of a full-time permanent USDA entomologist to the San Luis II port of entry in Arizona to address a significant decline in commercial truck traffic due to delayed inspections. That will conclude my presentation to the board, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Alejandro?
Thank you.
More like a comment. You touched a little bit on the meeting that we had with with Chris Leon, the new administrator, but we did get a report on the construction and where it's at. And that letter was in response to a concern that the Mexican side may not be following the same pathway, or at least the same schedule. Now, I'm familiar with the fact that when they want to build across the border, they can do it in 6 months, where we take 4 or 5 years to do. So, but there's also that chance that we build up an infrastructure on this side that doesn't match the infrastructure on the Mexican side. So keep an eye on that, pretty close eye on that. The second thing I want to talk about briefly, if I can, is the fact that the crime wave that has taken over the Mexican side seems to have subsided a little bit, but not totally. So there's still concern if people wants to travel in Mexico that it's pretty dangerous to go to San Luis. I just wanted to make that, sort of open in public so that people will be sort of forewarned a little bit about what's going on. There's a lot of stuff going on across the
The State
border.
Department still has that warning in effect.
Yeah. Right? We had the first meeting of the Vision Group, which is a logistic type meeting with some of the city officials and Chris Leon and some officials. It went just as expected. We got a report that we were going to get to see the actual presentation that we witnessed with that drone pictures and all that stuff that's going on. Now, port of entry is looking more and more like a port of entry every day. Now the buildings are going up, so it's pretty visible. So for those who haven't seen it, we probably ought to be able to try to get at least a drive so we can show it a little bit if we can, for the rest of the board members that couldn't make it that day, which I think all of us, I think.
I didn't make it.
Yeah. So that you can actually see it. I don't think it's that private. It may be though because of the homeland security issues that come to play with it. Thank you for putting that together. That was very good.
Anything else for? Oh, thank you, Alejandro.
Thanks, Alejandro.
Current events. Liz?
I went to the Arizona at Work retreat, an all-day event. I'm looking. That is pretty much my biggest, and meeting with some constituents and talking to constituents, and that's about all. It's a slow month.
GYDC, Heritage Area, also visited with Bruce Quinn and others regarding the allocation of some of the Yuma artifacts. Talked to Colonel Nelson out at YPG, talked to MCAS, and several constituents, specifically around the dumping of the trash throughout the county, and several members of the Junior Livestock Committee and 4-H leaders regarding the meeting that was held last week, the week before, around the regulations that will come back to us here shortly for the raising of 4-H projects. And there were a couple other ones, but
That's it.
oh, the GYDC retreat. Did I mention that?
Mhm.
Okay.
But it was so good, it's worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Was it good?
We had some technical difficulties.
Oh. Oh.
I can go on, Martine, but I'm sure I want to talk about
I
what they've done.
know.
Several BOS sessions, which is unusual. Had a meeting out in the foothills reference to the feral cat problem, which is continuing. I'm sure you saw on the news where the one guy that was taking care of the colony got beat up because 2 dogs were running.
Yeah.
He asked an owner of 2 dogs that were running loose
I saw
near
that on
the
the
colony
news. Yeah.
to please put them back on leash, and the guy proceeded to beat him up. Attended the Antelope Union High School board meeting and held a community meeting out in Foothills, which was very strongly attended with zoning issues coming up and numerous phone calls from people. That's it.
Been busy with election stuff, so that's it.
I attended a meeting with, in the city of Somerton with,
Oh.
had all the mayors.
Yeah.
Supervisor Lyons was there.
I forgot that.
And
Thank you,
had the
Martine.
mayor from Rocky Point there with the newly elect mayor of Rocky Point. So we, told them a little bit about the county, and so what.
His inauguration is on our day, though.
On the 15th.
Of
Yeah,
September.
of September. So we are invited. And I also had a meeting with the new superintendent in Somerton School District. I'm glad that he was selected to do that. And I know they have a bond, the Somerton School District, so that'll be coming up on the ballot in November. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things. I was also in attendance at the Yuma County Workforce Development Board retreat, GYEDC retreat, the Feral Cats meeting, and had a good meeting with Ratika Dewan of Arizona Western College. And that's it.
All right.
All right. I'm done.
What? No?
No.
Motion to meeting adjourned.
All right.